Let's talk about nested forms. So here I have a form inside a form. This is the main form, inside which we have a child form. So this is our child form. In the normal React way, for you to work with multiple form components, you have to lift up the states of your child form and then drill down the props to the child form. Imagine the case of multi-step form where you're having maybe multiple child forms. So you will do the same. You will lift up the states of your children and drill down the probes to those several children that you'll be having. And everyone has probe drilling. But React Hook Form has a better way for working with nested forms. So, which is that better way? We're going to see. The first thing, you're going to assign useForm to a variable so that you can use it down here. By the way, the assumption is that you are understanding what's happening here. So if not, check out my previous video. I covered all the basics of working with React Hook Form. So every property that useForm has to offer, we can now get it through methods. Then the second and most important thing is to wrap your form inside a form provider. So wrap the whole of your form within a form provider. So we're getting form provider from React Hook Form. After wrapping your parent form within a form provider, and in a form provider, make sure to spread the methods so that you can use those properties anywhere within our child components or child forms. So that way we are almost good to go. Again, the assumption is that you're understanding what's happening here. If not, of course, you should check out my previous video. But yeah, this is actually what we're having. So we can go to our child component and see what's happening inside there too. So in our child component, the only difference is that we are getting these properties from useFormContext. But the rest is just doing everything the same way you will do with useForm. Let's play around with our form. So full name. Everything is working fine. That's basically what's happening. So let's talk a little bit about watch and getValues. So what are these watch and getValues? These are methods that React Hook Form provide for tracking the state of your form. So watch subscribes to the changes of your form. And by the way, be sure to subscribe to my channel also. So watch subscribes to your form, and getValues just gets a snapshot of the state of your form. So you're going to understand this in a second. We're going to see an example. So for this example, let's change this one to getValue and see what's happening, and then I'm going to explain. So getValues, of course we're getting this one from there. So let's refresh. Let's open the console also so that I show you the difference between watch and getValues. In this example here, you cannot provide the zip code because this input is disabled. I did that one here. Of course, when we don't have city, I would like to disable this zip code input. So how are we going to know that we have provided a value for a city? That's where watch comes into play. So watch essentially does what it says. Watch watches this input. It subscribes to the changes of this input. This is useful when you are doing some kind of conditional rendering. For example, for our case here, when we want to conditionally disable the zip code when the city has no value. So of course, let's refresh that one and see. So when we provide a value here, now our zip code, we can type inside the zip code. So when we remove it, of course, we cannot type in there. When we provide a value, we can now type. But what if we use getValues? Okay, let's try that one. getValues. Of course, we're getting this one from useFormContext. So let's refresh our form. Take a look. But the zip code is still disabled. Why? Because getValue is not watching, or rather is not subscribed to our city. So let's open the console. Of course, there's nothing happening. But if we change this one to watch, you see, immediately our zip code is now enabled. So let's refresh this one. Now, when we type anything in our city, the zip code is going to be enabled. But take a look. The component is re-rendering whenever there's a keystroke in our city. But for the case of getValues, when we use getValues here, for the case of getValues, there's no re-rendering, right? So that's actually what I meant when I say watch is like a subscriber, while with getValues, it's like just getting the snapshot of the state of your form or your input without necessarily re-rendering the whole component. So, and that's the reason as to why getValues, when we use getValues, the zip code remains disabled. Why? Because it doesn't know that the city has changed. The component has not rendered. But it's not advisable for you to use watch too much because it causes re-rendering of your component. Make sure whenever you use watch, you actually specify the input that is supposed to cause the re-renders, because if you don't specify the input, for our case we specify that we want to re-render the component when the city changes, but in case you leave it blank, this is going to re-render the whole component. Whether you are typing in this input or any other input inside your form, the component is still going to re-render. So let's see that one. So take a look. We are typing in the name field and the whole form, or rather the whole component, is re-rendering because we've not specified when a component should re-render. So make sure to specify the actual input that you're watching. Of course, when you specify their city, there's no re-rendering. I hope that was useful. Leave your comments down below. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next one.